Welcome to KDKP Noire. I'm K Noire, and today we're talking Girlset, formerly known as the group VCHA. You remember the group. You remember the show A2K. Totally great. I followed it from start to finish. I was just totally amazed at how it actually kind of transpired and the whole concept behind it. But I was drawn in from day one and watched every single episode. So I was highly invested in the group formerly known to become VCHA. However, there are some things that transpired and some things that happened over the course of the time that they reemerged and rebirthed as Girlset that kind of just got me feeling a little bit confused. So let's talk about it and dive into what we know about them now. They rebranded from VCHA to form Girlset, which VCHA consisted of 6 members, which included KG and Kylie, plus these 4, Camilla, Lexi, Savannah, and Kendall, which ended up to really be the final 4 that we now see as Girlset. But what happened in between, and why was a reset or rebrand needed? This one I struggled with quite a bit. I kind of sat on this video for weeks because I was so invested in the show and I was trying to figure out a way to, just kind of bring all the elements together in a positive aspect. But I will have to tell you, I kind of struggled and still struggle with how to say this. So let's just get into it and see what we get. So the girls actually formerly known as VCHA, when they came out of the show, like I said, they consisted of 6 members. And with those 6 members, they went from the A2K, which was America, to Korea. That was the whole concept of building a global girl group. Now, keep in mind, a lot of people like to say, oh, it was a K-pop group. But they really were branded as a global girl group that were being formed with members of America and Korea and bringing together or merging the culture of the two in a K-pop style or fashion. Now, with that being said, these girls went into being totally immersed into that industry. We saw them when they went from America to Korea, and we saw how the training was going, how different it was in America as opposed to Korea, but it was still being done in the K-pop industry format setting. So that was a concern in itself for me from day one. Now, that was a concern because I kept thinking to myself, if these girls are not really a K-pop group, then why are they being branded or trained in a K-pop setting? If they're a global group, to me, I felt like they could be trained like anywhere. But they were being trained in this K-pop industry setting, the routine, the training elements, and different things like that from what we saw. Now, according to things we later learned from the lawsuits and allegations that came out from the former members, KG specifically, they were being treated as K-pop idols and K-pop training schedules and K-pop training schedules that kind of took a toll on her mental health, her well-being, and things that she was trying to do just to remain a member of that group. Now, we would later find out in the lawsuits that she filed was that she felt like she was being unfairly treated. It was a misrepresentation of what was presented to her as opposed to what she was doing. There was even some child exploitation allegations. There was like a whole list of things that she was claiming were occurring or alleging that were occurring that were being, considered in this lawsuit that she was having with JYP Entertainment. Now, in addition to that, we later learned that the youngest member, Kaylee, exited the group as well at that time. Now, we were told that Kaylee exited the group due to injury and, that she could not keep up with the schedule that was. And seems logical We don't know the specifics. Nothing else came out about that as far as I know. But to kind of have them go parallel one with the other when upon the exit was a little bit concerning to the group and their future thereof. Now, if we fast forward and we get through the allegations, which KG, they finally settled at some point and came to a decision with that. And I'm not going to go into deep dive and detail of that because it's still disturbing to me on a lot of levels for her and for JYP, because I think, like I mentioned here in the beginning, there was a question for me. That was an alarm for me from day one, because I could not kind of grasp or put myself together to understand exactly why we have a global K-pop group or global girl group training in a K-pop capacity. And knowing what I know, with my own profession, there has to be some type of stipulations there legally and contractually that basically stipulate what actually the role of that group is and what they're going to be doing and how they're paid. Is that on an American format or was that on a Korean format? Henceforth, later down the way, we find out we're part of KG's allegations. Now, fast forward into why the rebrand or reset. That had to be something that was considered because these girls were, like I said, came out at the same time as the Dream Academy girls that were being branded by Big Hit. They were kind of running simultaneously with the shows, and people saw a big difference even back then with how the groups were being marketed. JYP's A2K show was a little bit more personable and kind of raw and uncut and unedited in a lot of formats that you could see. It really looked very much like reality TV. Now, Big Hit or Hype, on the other hand, with their label and their survival show with Dream Academy, totally different. You knew it was a well-cut, well-staged performance of a survival show that they showed. These girls looked like professionals from day one. And when you looked at that and you look at this one that were running simultaneously, literally at the same time, you kind of said, like, wow, like there's such a big difference. Would they be in competition with one another? That was always a question that was asked, because, like I said, JYP was saying this is a global girl group. Big Hit was saying this is a global girl group. So at some point they'd have to cross the same stage or same instances, intervals, things that occur in the industry. So when you looked at it and you saw the final product, it was a night and day difference. And that was a concern. And for me, instantly, I thought, well, they got to polish them up a little bit if they're going to put them in the same space as this girl global group that is emerging into the industry right now. Not saying that they should be compared, but it was something that couldn't be stopped. People were going to compare them regardless, just because of the timing. And that is something that, we saw happening. We saw happen in real time. But with all of the allegations and lawsuits and everything else that came up with the girls from VCHA, you had no other choice but to reset and rebrand and bring out something different to be in that competitive space. And I said it, yes, competitive. That girl, global group that you're marketing and you're putting out, you had to reset these girls in order to do that. And at that point, I think what they did, if we fast forward to now, they did good. I personally think that all of them had a total transformation. Camilla, Lexi, Savannah, and Kendall, total transformation. Their makeup was different. Their clothing was different. How they came out and presented themselves were different. I know they had to come out as a group in unison and present themselves as very confident and very together. And kudos to you, Girlset, for doing that, because you did that. However, when you start looking at the the interviews, the music, all of the things that are coming out. The music looks great. But when you look at them and you see them sit and talk, if you look at the body language, you look at how they kind of look at each other, kind of play off each other, which some groups do. There's nothing wrong with that. But these girls, I think in one of the videos specifically, I think for Billboard perhaps, where Camilla actually said, hey, we had to get into this situation where we had to move beyond it, and we had to kind of trust what the label was saying. Trust that they were going to take care of us, trust each other. And that's the whole concept of a rebrand or any group. You have to develop trust. No matter what relationship you have, whether it's personal, professional, whatever it is, if there's no trust, there's no relationship, period. And we saw that with these girls, they look to each other, help each other, and it appears that the label is helping them as well. So that is always good to see. And I think that is a refresh, restart from the allegations in the past. Now, when you look at where they come out in this industry right now, so for Girlset to come out now, it's time to play catch up. And playing catch up can be hard to do. That is what my take is on it. When you look at them and you look at the videos, the lyrics and everything were catchy, they were confident, they were cool in it. And you saw where they came out and they presented themselves very well. And it's like one of those in your face kind of videos. And you definitely saw the look that was there. And it was like, yeah, this looks great. This is one of those things that I think that, yeah, this is great for the space that they're in. However, it's going to be hard to play catch up to what's already out there in the space. That's where I struggle today with it. I want to see them win, go forth, and do great things in this global market that they are being now presented in. But until next time.